and you run into your ex. Gillette Clinical activates to keep you feeling dry.
Yeah, this is Kelsey. We used to date.
When pressure spikes, defend against sweat and odor. Gillette.
What's up, everybody? It looks like the camera is not being nice for the game capture. I don't know why it's saying that. So maybe we do actually have to listen to other people's opinions on Smash Brothers. Yeah, so this is a NeoGAF thread on Smash Brothers, and I think at some point people start discussing some of the tweaks that they would bring to the game. I know my brother looked pretty thoroughly through this thread and pulled out some data. Magic Armor Toon Link? That's silly. Kefka Marth. So yeah, usually these threads are just sort of a collection of all these different things that people say. It's a great way to sort of pay attention to a lot of different opinions and comments about something. Threads are a great way of concentrating that discussion, especially when you won't find people dropping off casual opinions about things in other places. So let's see. I don't know where to find some of the exact opinions, but I know a lot of people were talking about comparisons to the other Smash games, which we kind of discussed this week already before. Oops, didn't want to do that. Let's see. Where are they talking about stuff? People talking about costumes and characters like they always do in these threads. Some people actually put their opinion together. What are these anime kids doing here? Cool, so it looks like, yeah, my black magic not working. But there are plenty of neat things to talk about. So we've talked about Smash Brothers all week. Yo, what's up, Less Than Pi? There's so much to say about Smash Brothers, but for the most part we hit a lot of the big topics, and really sticking to the core gameplay and talking about all that. That's really what I wanted to do most. Earlier in today we talked about all the things that we would tweak to Smash Brothers Forward, based on what we understand and how the game works. Some of those notes are down at the bottom, you can see. It's not really anything major to the combat system, just a few things to the defensive options, right? Shielding and rolling. Sakurai talks about balancing a Smash all the time, and if people paid a little bit more attention to what Sakurai says, you know, we'd have a lot less useless arguments on the internet. But you know, he fully acknowledges that a lot of the characters are designed to play like their original games, and they're not all the best at 1v1, and that's just perfectly fine with him, right? So like, it's not the goal to make a game where every character is good at For Glory mode, right? Some are really better at free-for-all. Some moves in particular, he said, are almost completely useless in single player or in 1v1s, and I think he was talking about Warlock Punch and Falcon Punch, really. He says they work much better free-for-all. That's fine too. I mean, we have so many characters now, really. It's just a lot. There's a lot to go around. Do I need to turn this music down to being loud? There we go. Curb it. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully my camera thingy is not coming back online. Why not? Refresh. Why is it not working? I don't know why it's not working. Just let me think for a second. It's not even recognizing it. I've just been working on combos. Working on a lot of different Smash combos. Working on... Oh man, it's not accepting my drivers. Black Magic, come on. Why isn't it not working? It was working and then I restarted my computer. Oh well, that's fine. Let's find something to listen to. Might as well start with Sakurai himself. So Source Gaming is the only people that I see sort of republishing interviews that Sakurai does and call his column in Famitsu. So let's take a listen to this and see what happens.
Sakurai on balancing Smash Note. Some parts of the quotes were emphasized by us. For the full context, check out the interviews columns. Super Smash Bros. Was Masahiro Sakurai's response to what the hardcore exclusive fighting game genre had become, specifically in the late 90s. When the first game in the series would release, the game introduced specials that could be performed with simple inputs, streamlined controls, as well as a dynamic ring-out system instead of one based on life bars, items, stage transformations, gimmicks, and the implementation of various modes of play in the series. Lifetime have contributed to the mass appeal of the Smash Bros. Franchise. Sakurai wanted a game where players could brush off losses and be able to say, "That was fun," even if they didn't win. As such, the games are designed in a way that the most skilled player may not always win. I am trying to make winning and losing haphazard. I won. Go into the specifics here, but I tried to make it so that if you are good at competing, you want to be able to use the same pattern or strategy to win against a player consistently. The rate of accents is high, and overall it's easy to inject variance into the progression of the game and results. I think it would be great to be able to simply laugh and move on to the next game regardless of whether you won or lost. Winning and losing, April 25th, 2003. This sentiment was repeated in 2015 in an interview with Denjiki, where he also emphasized the importance of avoiding a strong sense of loss and any negative feelings that might accompany it. Smash was created with the concept of a game where you play against your friends, but it's a loose and rough experience. Also, by expressing a character's defeat by dynamically launching them off screen, we avoid the experience of your character being beaten and falling to the ground, that sort of thing. Denjiki Nintendo, February 2015. Despite this, there is a certain approach to balancing that Sakurai has taken in every game. The latest game, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, even saw regular balance updates and an expanded in-house playtesting team. Let's take a moment to look at Sakurai's comments relating to character balance throughout the years. In general, Sakurai wants the game to be fun. First and foremost, he doesn't believe in balancing the game if it decreases the fun factor. Of course, this is a given for any fighting game, not just one that incorporates haphazardness, such as Smash. Sakurai has also stated that he must balance Smash across a wide variety of playstyles and modes. He considers not only 1v1, but all kinds of matchups with a variety of playstyles and a variable amount of players. There are moves that are completely useless in a 1v1 battle, but in a 4-player free-for-all those moves might prove quite useful. Therefore, if I played only one kind of battle, the game would feel very slanted towards a particular style of play. The act of balancing, June 11, 2015. Sakurai doesn't want to have balanced characters if it means that characters become homogenized. Whether you believe that on or the other proposition is, of course, up to debate. Having characters that stand out in a certain way and having characters that feel unique and possess individuality is more important than balance. Smash is inherently different than most other fighting games. Not only is it a platform fighter, but the game can be played with up to 8 people with a presence of items ranging from high to never. Sakurai has stated that it's up to players to pick and choose what they like and play the game the way they want. However, as a game designer, Sakurai has to consider all of his audiences when speaking about things that gamers may feel are unneeded. Sakurai has stated, even Smash Bros. Is one big ball of bonus features, jam-packed with unnecessary content. I don't need this. I don't need that either. Some may say, to take an extreme point of view, everything aside from free-for-all mode is technically unnecessary. All the items, all the final smashes, all the stages aside from Final Destination. But if you were to take all of those extra features away, all you would be left with is a bare bones, niche market game. Don't need this. Don't need that. August 7th, 2015. Even though Sakurai believes Smash is a party game first and foremost, he has generally increased his focus on balancing, or delegated it to a team, with every iteration. During development of Super Smash Bros. And Super Smash Bros. Melee, I balanced the game personally. For the third game, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, we monitored a team of 4 people, looking at their records against each other, for example, and adjusted from there. This time, Ray monitoring a team of 12 people? Famitsu interview from E3 2014. In Smash 64, Sakurai essentially decided the game's balance by himself. While the debug team may have offered some suggestions, Sakurai had the final say in regards to balance. After the game's release, Sakurai created the Smash Dojo, a site where he outlined many of the hidden advanced techniques in the game. In the foreword to the site, Sakurai wrote, "It seems there are many people who have a narrow or prejudiced view when they haven't played the game, or have barely touched it, and, despite the fact that I left the gates to the game wide open, I do think that playing the game and not noticing these hidden elements is a bit of a shame. So, I thought that what I should do after releasing this game was to make it possible for people who needed to learn information, find new ways to play, or understand techniques, and so I made this website." Newsflash: Smash Bros. Dojo forward. In Smash 64 and Melee, Sakurai was keen on providing the hidden depth for those advanced players. Soma has broken down Sakurai's approach to Smash 64 and Melee, which are a must-read to understanding Sakurai's approach to game design and balancing. Sakurai even outlined advanced techniques in Melee on the game's official Japanese website. Admittedly, no one would call these techniques advanced today. Sakurai hasn't really said much else in regards to how Smash 64 or Melee were balanced, other than some fairly minor and vague statements. For instance, he mentioned that Kirby was weakened in Melee after being told that he was too strong in 64, and the trophy descriptions for many of the characters in Melee allude to their strengths and weaknesses. Of course, there's also the fact that Melee went through an actual balance patch, PAL, released 5 months after the NTSC release. Nearly every character underwent some form of balancing. The PAL version of game nerfs nearly every top tier in the game. Fox, Falco, Schick, and Ganondorf were almost indisputably nerfed. Falcon's weak knee is nerfed but gets easier. Gentleman's Marth received a slight decrease in aerial mobility and weight and lost his Dare Spike, but gained the, almost surely unintentional, quality of being knocked by Shine, which makes Wave Shine Up Smash impossible. In essence, a significant portion of the high-tier characters in the game received effective nerfs. There are other changes too, minor weight buffs for Kirby and Bowser, Link losing a semi-spike off of his grounded-up B, and Yoshi getting damage and weight buffs, but the point is clear, Melee was definitely tweaked with some degree of competitive balance in mind. After Melee, Sakurai would leave HAL, but later agreed to create Brawl, after Iwata had already revealed that Smash was coming to the Wii. For Brawl, he decided to take the casual audience more seriously, which severely altered the way Sakurai approached balancing. With the Wii, Nintendo and Sakurai saw the rise of the casual audience, the increased number of new players, a demographic that Sakurai has taken into consideration with all of his games, and the Wii Remote itself prompted Sakurai to slow down the game's speed and remove some advanced techniques. Question: why is the game speed different from Melee? Sakurai: I wanted to make it easier to play is number one, but another one of the reasons is because you use the Wii Remote to play. Host: the Wii Remote. Sakurai: basically, Ray using a controller with a D-pad to play, and I figured the WOULDN to be able to withstand the speed of Melee. Host: I see, you don't have a control stick, after all. Sakurai: also, one of the things I felt when reflecting on Melee was that while a higher speed game is definitely exhilarating and fun, it makes the gap between beginners and higher level players too large, and you can't really enjoy carefree, leisurely aerial battles. On the contrary, you might say it makes the game rough, but it does shrink the breadth of the game a little. So this time, I made the speed slower, but on that point I think it would best to think of Brawl and Melee separately, and enjoy them each in their own way. TL note: Sakurai has used this phrase in other places, and generally in those cases he means more The variety of ways you can play. Nintendo Dream, September 2008 edition as mentioned before. Brawl was balanced using data from a playtesting team that was comprised of 4 people. Because of the Wii hardware limitations, patches and DLC were not possible for the third entry into the series. Speaking with IGN, Sakurai stated, "There are no characters that can be unlocked via connecting to Wii Connect 24 or interacting in that fashion. And I may be mistaken here, but the Wii DOESN? Do you have a hard drive? It's a disk-based system? So I don't. Do you think we? LLB, doing that, I don't. Do you think it's going to happen?" GDC 2008. Sakurai on Super Smash Bros. Brawl. In the same interview, Sakurai also discussed why he didn't to implement leaderboards in Brawl. Masahiro Sakurai, "Well, I am sure that people hitting ranks 1 through 10, were there such a ranking system, would be incredibly pleased with it and having a lot of fun. But, you know, it's not fun for everybody involved per se if such a system were to exist. I was asked this time around to try and get Wi-Fi into the game, and so certainly we managed to get wireless battles so you can play with people in other places. But it's really a game in my mind that has been designed to be played with a smaller group of people. Be that a group of friends or within your house a group of family members. Competing in the small circles and not really worrying about winning and losing so much as the process that gets you there. That is where the fun should hopefully be for a lot of people. It can also be kind of trying and painful for some people who want to be at the top and think that they really good at Smash, and they look at their online ranking and they the 100,000th best Smash Brothers player. Those are some of the reasons we decided not to go with leaderboards. GDC 2008. Sakurai on Super Smash Bros. Brawl. The approach to balance in Brawl was different because Sakurai had a different goal in mind when creating the game. With Brawl, Sakurai wanted to emphasize on freestyle fighting. Sakurai. This time, instead of focusing on battle equals to burn, I wanted the game to focus on having an image of being able to fight freely, play freely, so I changed it up a little. Although in keeping with the previous theme, Smash Dojo initially had a fire motif as well. But I asked them, please make it a sky, and so it changed. TL notes. He uses the verb to burn, but in Japanese that has another meaning, which means to get passionate about something. Or basically, to get fired up. Nintendo Dream, September 2008. One of the core ideas of Smash for Wii U/3DS is that it would be a mix of Sakurai's approach to Brawl and Melee. This is actually reflected in the game's logo, and on the final destination stage, red represents the fiery passion and blue represents the freestyle battles. This is what Sakurai had to say about the core design of Smash for Wii U/3DS in an interview with Polygon. To paint in broad strokes, Melee is for the maniac, the veteran player, while Brawl is for a newer, more casual gamer. As far as the speed goes, Sakurai explained, Melee, of course, is super fast, and the people who are used to that game love that gameplay, but it may be a barrier for folks who found it a little imposing. Brawl was designed to be more approachable and accessible by folks who might used to be playing Wii Fit or Wii Play. Now, with the new Smash Bros., Ray thinking the positioning will be really right in the middle. Polygon, new Super Smash Bros. Removes tripping. Game speed between Brawl and Melee. Smash for Wii U/3DS also represents a big change to the way Sakurai has approached balancing. The first is that Sakurai enlisted the help of Bandai Namco, partly due to their experience making the Tekken games. ND. These games were produced together with Bandai Namco Games. How did this happen to be? MS. When we created Kid Icarus 3DS we assembled people from several places, but we experienced problems and had some regrets with that. I had to do interviews and other reviews, which amounts to a lot of time and work. Obviously, everyone has different levels of experience and different ways of working, so bringing everything together was difficult. To solve this problem we thought it would be better to have one single company work for us, so we choose to work with Bandai Namco Games who produce Tekken and other games. When thinking about a Japanese company that can make a large-scale fighting game, there was only this one company. It would be quite difficult for other companies, I think. Nintendo Dream interview, translation by Guru on NeoGAP. Sakurai also watched and spoke at several Smash tournaments. He participated in Kakeji 3 times, including a tournament featuring top players from Japan and the West. While he didn't necessarily agree with the way Smash was being played at those tournaments, he is happy that players can enjoy it in their own way. Recently, there was a tournament featuring the top Japanese and American players. In 1v1s, the natural tendency is to use low-risk moves to gradually deal damage to the opponent. Smash attacks rarely came out, and the matches were prone to becoming long, drawn-out affairs. When considering the variety of ways Smash can be played, I think this is a shame, but the winner was certainly decided by skill. Just as surely, people who play the game this way enjoy it from the bottom of their hearts, and make many friends playing this way, because the game accommodates a wide variety of playstyles. It's only natural that it captivates so many people in a variety of ways. The act of balancing. June 11, 2015 Sakurai introduced a leaderboard system, but in reverse order. With the global Smash power, the higher the number, the better the player was ranked. This was done on purpose to combat the problems that Sakurai saw with a normal ranking system. Lastly, Sakurai increased the number of people in balancing, and took suggestions. He was also less involved with balancing when compared to other games. Sakurai, check the results from online matches. but I left all the finer details and research to the monitoring team, so I didn't really go out of my way to watch things that closely. Nintendo Dream, April 2016 edition. Sakurai balances Smash across a wide variety of playstyles, for many different kinds of players. When balancing the game he has to consider the many ways Smash can be enjoyed. His thoughts may be best summarized by the following tidbits from the April 2016 edition of Nintendo Dream. I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand. For the people who only play for Glory 1v1, that's the extent of their world. They might not understand the reason why other communities exist. At the same time, if Smash were to develop into a pure only unknown fighting game in which only the strong survive, the people who play Smash just to have a good time would all disappear before you know it. Nintendo Dream, April 2016 edition. Sakurai continues. The game DOESN? To have the same sense of chance as poker or mahjong, but it also DOESN? To do anything special to give the losing player a leg up. Rather, even if a skill difference exists between players, Smash is a game everyone can enjoy together, and I think that type of experience is both rare and extremely important. That's why I aim to create something fun where 4 players can fight one another simultaneously, something that WOULDN? To limit the kinds of people playing? Nintendo Dream, April 2016 edition. Recently, the Smash director briefly discussed Smash as an esport in this Famitsu column. Recently, Smash has risen in popularity as an esport. What do you think of the fact that Melee is as popular as Smash 4A? First off, it makes me very happy. They both games I made, after all. And I am also surprised, because it means that the players really understood the concept behind that game correctly. The one where skills gaps become very apparent. The one that's highly competitive is Melee, but I want to avoid a design where stronger players utterly dominate weaker ones. We should make it so that new players can have fun as well. V touched upon this idea in previous columns. If you want to enjoy the strategy or competitiveness in playing against another person, then maybe normal fighting games are more suited for you. Reader's response to Sharp46, March 24, 2016. To end this lengthy write-up, I'll leave you guys with the following quote. At the end of the day, I am aiming for intermediately skilled players to be able to properly enjoy the game. Fundamentally, my goal with Smash has been to create an enjoyable party game. If you want to enjoy thrilling tactical gameplay, you might be better suited for other 2D fighting games. The Act of Balancing, June 11, 2015.
Cool. A bunch of quotes, lots of interesting things that are said. I think, I've listened to these Sakurai interviews over and over, and it just becomes like clearer and clearer sort of what kind of designer he is, what kind of headspace he comes from, what kind of perspective, what things he worries about, and what he values and what he thinks is important. So it's interesting. It's been a long history with all the different Smash games, and Smash 4 is pretty interesting, as it was kind of still thinking about it as a midway point between Melee and Brawl. You mainly describe that in terms of game speed, right? Which is pretty interesting. We looked at some frame data before this, and we compared Sheik's frame data to Sheik's frame data in Smash 4 from Melee. And a lot of their frame data just compares directly, and with a little bit of difference of 1 or 2 frames. But mostly when he's talking about game speed, he's talking about like dash speed, fall speed, and to a lesser degree L canceling, right? So that's pretty cool. I can imagine that he sees it in a very technical way, and he's just looking at numbers, and he's just kind of balancing things out and still approaching these games and making them from the same process. But he knows that, little things like game speed has a large effect on the audience. I just really hope Smash NX doesn't ruin things, right? I didn't like it how Nintendo released Pokemon Oris 1 year after XY, and then everyone had Oris and I never got it. So like random people that I got a chance to trade with their battle, I wouldn't even have the right version to play with them. And they used to always do Pokemon every 2 years with Brawl Sheik, similar frames too, yeah. I mean, the games are very similar. But Smash 64 doesn't exist. That game was such sort of like a proof of concept, right? And it has a lot of the core Smash in it, but pretty far. It says far away from all the others, and the other ones are relatively closer. Yeah, I don't know why my camera is not available. Let's see what we got here. It's so funny. I've been writing about Smash for so long and playing Smash for so long, and I remember before Brawl came out, I had a blog, and I wrote about all these things from a game design perspective, like that I thought they should change and things that were going to be added and all these different things. And the list of changes that I made mostly came true for Brawl, and then I was explaining how the game was balanced with all these things in mind, and nobody cared to listen. And then years later, Sakurai has these interviews and he's saying the same thing. I talked to people about how the game of Melee on a high level is very different from the game of Melee on the low level, and it's a interesting design goal to make it to where intermediate players, like players who know all the buttons and even play like regularly or whatever, are not on a completely different world of strategy than top level players. And I think that's important. That's an important way to sort of unify your player base, and like you said, so pros don't utterly dominate in ways that the intermediate players don't even understand, right? So I've seen a lot of players play Smash 4, and whether it's because of the internet play or whatever, like there's some players that we've never heard of, and little kids just doing really well with playing Smash 4 against tournament people. So I think that's ultimately a shining example of some of the changes that I've that are in Smash 4, and the product of many changes over time. I think that's really important. I talk about that a lot with the ideas that I have for game design, and a lot of people are under this weird impression that just including a mode or an option is a good or valid alternative, a good or valid option to appeasing different peoples of various views and playstyles, right? So if you don't want to play the game with the controls, just give them some options, right? Turn off the controls. You don't like to play with motion controls, turn them off. You don't like XYZ, give them an option. Give them a toggle switch. I'm like, that's not design. Design ultimately says, I'm going to make a thing. And because you try to make a thing, by very definition, it will be unlike most other things, right? And then that means you can't appease everyone. And there are some things that are in opposite of how and why you design things. So it's important not to try to chase the approval of all these different people, but to recognize the limitations of your design that you're going for, meet your audience halfway, and just build whatever you're trying to build. So yeah, like having an L canceling or a melee mode option in Smash 4 would not have been good design. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's already characters, like we discussed, in Smash 4 that play very much like Melee, and the game is closer to Melee than Brawl is in terms of speed, and it's got all these like nuances, plenty of stuff to dig into for the next 5 years, right? 5 years plus. But you know, it's not just about giving people what they say they want, it's about giving people quality product underneath, and like saying you need to grow up a little bit and try the game out. If you don't like it, that's fine, but don't complain about how something is before you play it or before it has a chance to grow. Like, all that is just so below the concerns of a designer. And sometimes I'm really glad that not only is there like a gap between us and Sakurai, but there's also a language barrier, so maybe he doesn't even hear all of our complaints. So Great Emperor Steve says, I like how Smash 64 doesn't exist. Anything to remark on him calling it a party game, or how he says players are suited for other fighting games? Those are the kind of things he says that people really get on the edge about. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing where, you know, sometimes you could say it's sort of an issue of translation, but he said it enough times and it seems pretty clear what he means. He's like, okay, Smash is a game that has like a different spirit at its core, and like he likes explosions and random elements and some haphazardness and chance, and even if you put it on 1v1 mode and take it to Final Destination, like a little bit of that still exists with Game & Watch's Judgment, Luigi's Misfire, Peach's Turnips, and other crazy, random, hilarious effects, right? Like characters bonking their heads on the side of the stage and all this stuff, right? Crazy things happen in Smash, and that's sort of the spirit at its core. And some people who still play and love Smash are bothered by that. Like, you could tell when they made PM, they took out random elements out of stuff like Luigi's side beat, and you're like, come on, that's like perfectly acceptable randomness, but they didn't think so. So like, everybody has a different opinion, but even the little bits of haphazard design that's embedded in the core of Smash, some people would rather not have it. So when you think of it like that, it's pretty clear when he says, if you're the kind of person who just really wants to buckle down and have every single button be deterministic and like what you want it to be, and like 100%, then maybe other fighters are better suited for you. And he put a maybe in there because he's just throwing that idea out there. He's saying, look, if all these things that I think are at the core of a game that I made rub you the wrong way, then despite being able to play this game like a fighter, maybe you'll want a fighter that's 100% suited for your particular taste. But maybe not. Like, he just kind of threw the idea out there, and he's kind of saying, stop trying to change what Smash is, because I created Smash. There are other things that can get you as experience that you demand that Smash isn't. But that's a nice way of putting it. Hey, there's other games out there for you. And yeah, he calls it a party game because like Smash is a party game, right? Like, it's in its widest frame, it gives you all these single player co-op, like adventure mode, break the targets, board the platform, all this like crazy mini games and stuff to play, and it's 4 players, and it kind of defaults to 4 to 8 players, and timed matches. So you're like, okay, well, Monkey Ball is also a sort of roll around action game, but it has Monkey Fight 2 inside of it. So like, I consider Monkey Fight 2 to be a fighting game, and it's a smaller mode definitely within Monkey Ball. So I don't really know how this is too different than that. The Smash community has pared down their rules to like 1v1s, no items, final destination. But you could imagine in a parallel universe, maybe we would have picked a different rule set that had items or something else, and what the hardcore community would have deemed acceptable could have been very different, and that still wouldn't change what Smash is, right? A lot of people take that as a personal attack. I love the random elements in Melee, and it made me sad that every aspect of them were taking out of competitive play, even some non-random stuff like Mute City. Yeah, seriously, I was fighting tooth and nail for stages like Mute City and things, and it's been a long journey. Yeah, tripping was I don't even know. I wanted him to talk more about tripping directly, but I really didn't think he did that to quote unquote stick it to the hardcore players. I think he put that in there because he wanted every player to have a little bit of that haphazardness and the hilarity to it. And tripping is funny, even when I took the game the most seriously. Like, when tripping happened, I just couldn't help but laugh, and we all kind of rallied behind the Sakurai cry because of it. So like, it worked. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Like, tripping wasn't it wouldn't be the first thing I took out of Brawl to fix it. I would definitely, balance the game for one. I would maybe even the first thing I would do is change the way the ledges work. Maybe that'd be one. No. It doesn't really matter, but I'd change the way air dodging worked to the ground and add landing lag. I would change the way ledges work to remove all that free invincibility. I would change the way and then I'd balance it, of course. I'd change Meta Knight strength and all these different things, and then maybe 4th, 5th, or 6th on my list, I'd be like, okay, you could take out tripping. So here's a thread from NeoGaf. What is the consensus on Smash Bros. Wii U? It has a lot of thoughts in it. The cool part about this is Marcus has been designing tools that can scan this entire thread and all the posts within it. Hundreds of posts, maybe even, like a lot of posts. And pluck out what people think, their sentiments of it, and can identify game design terms from our glossary and like zoom in on it and give you a spread of what kind of topics are being talked about on a mass scale. So I think this thread has some interesting things in it. He brought it up at the time, we've talked about it. People's complaints, I really like it when people sort of complain, because like, I got my own opinions, everybody has their own. It's nice it's nice to share experiences with like-minded people, but I think I'd rather live in a world where people complain about everything I like than to live in a world where nobody says anything, right? So I appreciate critique. I appreciate contrary voices when they're, for the most part respectful, and that's why I designed DO, and I built all these systems to help you find the same conversations that I found, because I value all these opinions. I value all these people who take the time to write something about something I like, because otherwise the world will be silent. And if you've ever loved a game a lot, or like played a game a lot and liked it, and have never found anyone else that said anything about it, you know what it feels like. Quit quoting me. DS game called Arrow Porter. I don't even know if anyone else is really even taking that game seriously. I can't find YouTube videos of it. I can't find anyone who's written anything of it. It feels like a game has come out and I put 50, 60 hours into it and it doesn't exist. So it's not the first time that's happened, but I'd rather have people complaining than not saying anything. Yeah, those chain grabs, yeah, I would definitely change the chain grabs before I took out chirping. Yeah. It's so interesting how Sakurai balanced the game out himself, right? And he didn't allow anybody else to tweak things, and at the early days he didn't even allow suggestions. Which is really interesting, because, that guy is smart. Like, Sakurai is super smart. And he understands what he's doing a lot. And sometimes when the balance is so off, you're like, he clearly didn't understand what competitive play was like. Well, one, he didn't know that, the competitive community has tweaked its own rule set for its own liking, so you can't anticipate what a whole bunch of people are going to gravitate towards when you're making Melee, right? Because there was really no community for 64. For 2, his target for balance was always set on something different and more meaningful to him and the core philosophies of why he was making Smash than just straight up tier list character balance. And we talked about this on day 3 of this week. Balance is not, or character viability balance is not the most important kind of balance. As Sakurai says over and over, I'd rather have a character that's weak but plays uniquely. I'd rather have a character that is distinct instead of homogenized and balanced and viable, right? And he said that many times, I guess, and it's obvious, and I appreciate it. Like Kirby in this game, Kirby in Smash 4 I've been working with, and I'm like, I don't know, he's so bland sometimes and so small and just chasing people and not getting stuff done. I'm like, how can you fight with this? But there's nuances inside of that I really appreciate, and I'd like to hear more from the balancing team, the 12 secret balancers of Smash 4. And I'd like to hear what they talk about and like what they think and how good they actually are. Oh, but that'd be a lot of fun. So yeah, there's a NeoGAF thread here about Smash Brothers. Dude, what is this? Paper Mario. Sometimes I don't even know what to do for the Smash community. It's so big, so varied. Some of them are so young, and I'm just trying to help them see and enjoy this game better and quit complaining about things that they don't need to complain about. But who knows? I could play this game like forever, which is crazy. Just sitting down, working out combos in training mode versus computers, and I have more fun with Smash Brothers than most games. too big, too young, too old, too small. Yeah, I really like I really wanted to do a single player mode for Bari Ball. There's so many ideas I have for level design that I wanted to try and build it around the gameplay of Bari Ball and build a single player challenges and enemies that bring out some of my favorite aspects of Bari Ball combat without having you to do it in multiplayer, because single player is really good at highlighting ideas via level design. I don't know what I'm gonna do in the game industry. Like, just like in the Smash community, I don't know how to make money. I don't know how to get my message out there. I don't know what's happening. I just make these tools, and I observe, and I research, and I listen, and that seems to be the only thing I can do. I don't even know what to do. I would love to go to Japan and interview Japanese developers and talk to Sakurai and the balancing team and do a little research and meet Japanese players of Smash Brothers. I would love to work on. I would like to work on some game ideas I have. Like, I have a whole bunch of game ideas I want to do, and half of them are my own IP and half are basically Nintendo IPs or other people's IPs, and I think that's a good balance. Because, man. Oh, you're reading my notes? You want me to go over my changes to Smash 4, Jonathan? Oh yeah, like I never wanted to make a direct living off of Smash Brothers. I just wanted to have a healthy community of people who don't yell at each other and aren't kids. But such is life. There's kids everywhere. Yeah, I want to make a Pokemon game. Like, I have a design document that I've been building on for years of a Pokemon game, and man, like, sometimes dreaming up things just hurts, because you're like, how close am I to even being able to, 1, articulate my idea, 2, even get it considered, and 3, actually work on it. Like, it's just so far away from being a reality. Yeah, so I guess I could change a lot of these things about Smash 4. Okay, so these are my changes to Smash 4. And I mostly identified it as there's a runaway problem I wanted to address. And it's a runaway problem because you have freedom of movement in Smash. And that's one of the first things I wanted to identify. So, characters in Smash 4 some characters can effectively jump faster, move in the air faster, and run faster than other characters. So that gives them a really powerful ability to run away. And, that's not good. Like, a lot of games have a runaway problem. Traditional fighters prevent it by making you walk backwards more slowly than forward, and when they attack at you, you kind of go into auto blocks, so it kind of sticks you into place. And there's corners and the stage isn't so big, but Smash Brothers is different. And with the freedom of movement, running away all the time is a problem. So, people, like, in the Smash community, we've put a high timer on matches to discourage running away. So if matches were like 2 stock 3 minutes, almost every match would probably go to time, because people just don't have to engage each other, and people can run away more easily than they can offensively trap them. So sometimes Smash is just like, you have to give them more time to just get bored of that, or like make that less viable, as people's, even if their traps are weak, will eventually roll up with enough damage to get a win. And that's kind of unfortunate. I think I love the freedom of movement in Smash, so here's some ways to sort of limit the runaway problem. You can reduce the timer, and when people try to run away, you have this hold center stage idea. Can you guys see that? Yeah. Hold center stage, and that means whatever character is closest to the center of the stage when the timeout goes, they win. So like, you need to stop running away. Yeah, diverse dynamic stages do help force conflict, but there's really nothing you can do to stop someone from jumping around and air dodging through you a lot, and like dashing away, shielding and rolling and air dodging. Like, those defensive moves are super strong, and they're super hard to like hit, and if you hit it, you might have to overextend just to hit it, and that's one hit and they'll just go right back into it with no penalty. It's funny how shielding in Smash has a decay, but not any of the other dodges, not rolling. You're like, why not? Okay, so one idea is to hold center stage, and whoever character is in the center stage the most wins when the time goes out or something. But I don't really like that idea, because it's like a new mode, and a friend came up with it, and like, good luck. Unless you put a default into all time-based games in Smash, then the community would be like, should we use it or should we don't? And you're like, I just don't want to give them the choice. I want to fix the issue from a deeper design level. So then stamina for dodge moves is an idea. I think all your dodge moves need to be linked via a stamina system, kind of like Rob's fuel in Smash. He can only robo-jet so many times before he has to touch the ground, and he doesn't get his fuel back in the air. So that means he eventually will come back down to fight you, and that's where the fight will happen. And if you keep Rob in the air, he could just not be able to recover. That's pretty cool. I want that kind of a system, which is kind of like Bari Ball, for all dodge moves, or even just all players who move around the air. I think a lot of players can just play Smash currently just by jumping all the time. And I think jumping and moving around the air is more dynamic than moving on the ground, and that's unfortunate. In the air, you can double jump, triple, maybe quadruple jump. You can fast fall. You can fast fall and air dodge. You can footstool, right? And you can throw out attacks, and that's a lot of options. And moving away from the opponent while attacking forward is really hard to deal with in Smash. And you get people low landing like moves, that means they can just repeat, right? Jump in the air and repeat, jump in the air and repeat, and it's really hard to stop that. So I think just moving around is hard to deal with, and maybe if you put a stamina on being in the air for too long and dodging, then that would kind of limit that a little bit. If items were allowed running away, if the items only spawned in the middle, or like spawned at predictable telegraphed places, that would force people to like gather around little areas for bits of time if they wanted to get access to the item. And maybe that would help. I always thought that was a cool idea, where like, you know how in Tetris you can see the pieces coming and then they kind of like go at the top of the screen and fall all the way down? You can do a similar thing with Smash items, where you can't get the item until it touches the ground, so you can see it coming and it's coming down and you're like, oh, I want that, and then you fight over the spot where it's going to be. That'd be really fun. But yeah, like the whole defensive game in Smash 4 could be tweaked to allow better and cleaner offense. Like, shields need to refresh slower. It's so stupid that if you nearly break a shield, a person would just all they have to do is start rolling around and air dodging, and they'll get their shield up to max, because it's only based on time. If you're invincible and dodging, if you're in the air, you should either not get your shield back or get it back much more slowly. We're gonna wait for Lesson Pie to get back. Okay, you're good now? Can you hear me? Let me know if you cannot hear me. Okay, so I talked about how before in Kid Icarus Uprising, they have a ubiquitous dodge system, and they also have stamina attached to it, so you get less and less invincibility when you dodge too much. You need to do something in Smash, because spamming roll is annoying, and I don't mind rolls being as quick as they are. I think they're actually fairly well tuned overall, just a raw roll, so that you can throw out a tilt probably and recover before the roll person recovers, whether that means you roll, spot dodge, turn around, attack, or whatever. That's the thing. They're snappy, so people want to do them, and I think just putting some kind of stamina on them will make it interesting. Like, you've got a few good rolls, and then you don't have good rolls, and maybe when you roll too much, like, your character it slows down at the end of it, right? It's not just about losing invincibility frames, it's about slowing things down, because I think a lot of times the penalties for things in Smash need to either give the attacking player more hit stun to play with, or bigger time windows to hit, because sometimes hitting those narrow time windows with air dodges and stuff, or like rolls, is so hard that you have to overextend to hit them, and when you do, you're not in a good position. That's just one straight hit. And like, Smash Brothers isn't a game where you can win by giving them little damage over time. It's about flow, knockback, and KOs. So that's my idea for the shields. It's too hard to walk in Smash 4. You can inch that control stick so softly, and then your character dashes, and I don't like that. It needs to be easier to walk. Because walking's not even that good in Smash 4. Your character doesn't walk instantly, they kind of step into it with a little bit of momentum. Yeah. And so in walking, you know, if it's not going to be snappier speed-wise, it just needs to be easier to do, right? In the fake game, you take more damage and knockback if you hit during the tangible parts of the animation / stance of a roll or something. Oh, of a spot dodge, yeah. So like over here I put, you can't see it on the screen, but I put like, maybe consider doing counter hits. I don't think people, so Smash Brothers is a game that doesn't have a lot of hit pause. When you hit stuff, unless it's a Falcon Knee, a Warlock Punch, or something crazy, when the opponent has tons of percentage, the game actually doesn't have a lot of hit pause. And Street Fighter does really well for giving a lot of hit pause for everything, which helps you really feel out every single hit, and even be able to hit confirm and react if a move hits on shield, on block versus on body. Smash Brothers with lower hit stun means that it's less room to react. And I thought about doing counter hits where it gives you more, gives the opponent more hit stun, but that may even be hard to react to, right? So you know, I thought about if you could provide clear enough feedback that the extra hit stun or knockback would be worth it. And I think the holy grail of Smash Brothers is giving things more hit stun, not more knockback. Like, you can charge smash attacks and you can use stronger moves for more knockback, but the thing you want is hit stun, so that you can use weak moves and chain them into stronger moves, and that'd be kind of neat to play around with. I think movement on the ground needs to be much easier. Sorry. I think movement on the ground in Smash 4 needs to be much easier. Basically, when you're in the air, all you have to do is hit forward or backwards, and you get the best movement, almost the best movement possible. If you use B moves like Diddy's flip or like a B reverse, you get crispy aerial movement, and aerial movement is hard to track because one, you know, a person's moving up, down, and left, right because they're falling through the air. Two, what is it? You know, B reversing is like a sharp turnaround. And three, characters can fast fall and double jump, and if you're trying to pinpoint where they're going to be, they have a lot of options to not be where you want them to be, including A moves that hover them for a little bit, like Sheik's down air, or they have up Bs, right? Up Bs that get them out of danger for one more jump, quote unquote. So like, it's hard to track people in the air, and I think the ground movement is way too punishing in order to track that. Doesn't Smash 64 have a lot of hit pause? And I think it does. Well, in Smash 64, whether it's hit pause or not, the game just moves super slow. You have tons of hit stun in Smash 64, and you go like hit, 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 hit. So the whole game is just slower, whether that's hit pause or not. But it should have more hit pause. That game is just like slow motion city. And when you get hits, the game slows down. But until you get the hits, the game's pretty snappy. So I was saying the ground movement in Smash 4 needs to be crispy. You know, like, I wish I could show you, I wish my stream thing it was working, but when you dash in Smash 4, you have all these sort of bad states you don't want to be in. Like, if you dash and accidentally turn around, your character skids and you can't shield or walk out of it or do anything but jump. There's all these other weird, like, if you dash forward incorrectly or walk forward and turn around, you'll kind of like waver. And it looks great animation wise, but it is so bad for playing the game. Like, you think he'd let you cancel what amounts to be a skating state into a shield because, you know, it's practically like standing still or walking, but there are tons of penalties for sloppy ground-based movement, and that's the hardest movement to master in Smash 4. While everyone's jumping and having a fun time jumping around and fast falling, ground movement is just really hard. I mean, yeah, some characters have to move better on the ground. Like Bowser, he has a pretty fast natural running skid stop, and so does Sonic. And Sonic has better ground control than the air because just like in the Sonic games, he has low air acceleration. Little Mac has almost no air acceleration, but he's crispy on the ground. Like, that's true. But in general, there's just more ways to mess up being on the ground than in the air, right? And that's kind of, it's hard to track people. And the fact that when they're in the air, they can move up and away from you and then reset away from you. That's just part of the runaway problem. So for some nuanced stuff, I take away the ability to perfect shield after you dodge, because I think dodging is too strong, and to hit dodges, which is really hard, you have to commit to an attack. And I mean, currently you can set up some pretty nasty perfect shield baits by just spamming dodges and knowing how to use option selects, and I'd probably take that out of the game. Here's a big one. After you hit someone's shield, I would make it to where you cannot roll left or right out of it, or maybe even you can't even spot dodge until 7 extra frames are over, which is equivalent to a shield drop. Currently, because you can roll out a shield instantly whenever you're shielding, that you basically bypass the commitment to dropping your shield, and that's really bad, right? So at any time you're not in shield stun, you can jump out of shield and you can shield grab, and we consider out of shield options like that to be sort of a counter move, right? Like, you're stuck in your shield, but you're not actually stuck, because if you either jump out of your shield or up smash out of your shield or shield grab, it cancels the 7 frames of shield drop time and you go directly into it. That's why shield grabbing is so easy and so effective. But they also made rolling on that same timing window, so you can roll immediately after the attack is done stunning your shield, which is dumb because there's a little bit of vulnerability frames at the front of rolls, but no air move recovers quickly enough to hit those frames because you're rolling way before the attacks are over. Yeah, rolling is too strong with a game with this much free movement. I just don't understand. So So in order to fix that, I think if you hit someone's shield, you can't roll out of your shield as quickly as you want to normally. You have to wait an additional 7 frames, which exposes your weak spot of the initial roll frames until closer to when the opponent can hit you out of it, and that'll make a much more interesting game. Sheik's fair to jab does not trap rolls.
Every host is different, and looking on Airbnb is like a meditation to stay in some.
Sheik's fair is 10 landing lag frames. It has at least 2 shield stun frames, and then it has, like, let's say 2 more, so like 4 shield stun frames, and then you roll and you're vulnerable from frames 5 to, let's say, 9. And by the time Sheik jabs with the 2-frame jabs, you're already 5-6 frames into your invincibility. Oh yeah, so that's the difference. I think the game has a really good balance for frame trapping shield grabs and out of shield options like jump and up smash. It's just the roll is the one that currently is too you can't trap it, and it's too radical for its movement. See, the rolls wouldn't be so bad if characters could only roll backwards, right? This means that you know where they're going to be if they want to get out of pressure, and you can kind of guess and hedge your bets and cover that space. But it's because characters can roll forward or backwards instantly at a moment's notice that you can't cover both options, and it's just so erratic that you just lose the pressure. Yeah, Sheik's fair in Smash 4 is 10 frames of landing lag. In Melee, when L cancelled, it's 8 frames. Melee changes is a whole other question. I don't really care about talking about Melee. It's a game with a lot less diversity. It's a game with old design ideas, and Smash 4 has everything that I like about Smash. It's my favorite Smash, and I haven't played Melee in a long time or thought about the tweaks that I would make in a long time, so I don't really care. Can't punish rolls unless you know what's going to happen. So here's the thing, rolling towards a player is supposed to be dangerous because instead of moving away from them, you're actually shortening the distance that you are to them, and if they just don't commit to something too bad, they can punish you for it. The problem is it's not easy to react to that, and because they can roll forward and back, it's just hard to even be ready for either option. Now, pushing your opponent to the edge of the stage is supposed to make rolling a really bad idea, because then all they have is roll towards the edge, which is like rolling in place, or roll through you, which is bad. But then, like I said before, because there's a lot of free movement, you can just jump out of pressure for the most part and just, like, you know, randomly air dodge or roll away, and it's just really hard to punish. Lag test? Oh, you're watching it on the stream video to see how long it's going to take. That's cool. So yeah, it's just having a little bit of decay on things, I think, is important. I think Smash Bros. Is a game about so many dynamic elements, from damage to stale move to rage to the stage position to all that it's a shame that the defensive options don't have dynamic decay as well, besides shields, which has this easy out for people. So that's a shame. It's a shame. I think Smash Brothers, moving on to the next topic, is too dynamic. In order to get a combo going, you pretty much have to be aware of the fact that of your own percentage, or your opponent's percentage, your own stale move, your sweet and sour spots of your moves. Even though it looks like you do the right move, you cannot aim it in the right way. There's DI and Smash DI. There's weight and other properties per character, and then there's rage. So that's like 6 important factors that make it hard, for 1, to figure out what your combos are, and 2, to make sure those combos work consistently among multiple characters. So for the most part, people compensate not by digging deep into these systems. They compensate by just doing random things, safe things, and just going on routine that just isn't very effective. And that's what I've seen currently in the Smash meta. Lots of just guessing, rolling, charging smash attacks on the ledge, because it's so frustrating to try to work around all these dynamically changing conditions. I talk to people about combos, and there's so much to understand to get a combo effectively effective that they often forget, or they just can't incorporate it, and that's kind of a shame. So I think the game's too dynamic, and perhaps I'd change it to where Rage only has 3 stages, like a low, medium, and high, instead of a dynamically shifting X factor on top of your moves. Just 3 distinct stages, so you can at least say like stage 1 Rage, this is your stuff, stage 2 Rage, or whatever. I reduce some ledge snap to recoveries in a lot of situations, but I think what's more important than reducing the ledge snap is just making the ledge a much more dangerous place in general. I think if you get to the ledge, you should be like, oh no, I could die. I think the stand-up doesn't need to be as safe as it is, and if you make rolling weaker, that would be a huge thing that would make getting up from the ledge worse. And if you make it to where you only get your shields back when you're on the ground, and you get your shield weakened and hit off the stage, that means when you get back to the stage, you're in a bad situation. And I think that needs to be, the ledges need to be scary and dangerous and thrilling to escape. Right now you have drop down from the ledge, attack up from the ledge, stand up from the ledge, roll up from the ledge, and jump up from the ledge, or go under the stage for some characters. That's too much. It's too much. It's hard enough to cover all those, and they all have like different gaps for when they're weak and to punish. But the thing that makes me the angriest the most is when you jump up from the ledge and you get hit out of it because they call your bluff, or they guess what your move is going to be. You get knocked off the stage and you still get a free jump. That doesn't make any sense. You should have used your jump getting up from the ledge. You don't get another jump to use just because you jumped up from the ledge. And it just kind of drags things out a little bit more, like, oh no, now they're in the air, now they're hard to hit, now they're hard to trap, and now they're rolling. And I just think the game needs to definitely have a much clearer, like, slippery slope for stuff like that. So I'd make the ledge more dangerous. I'd take away the free jump from jumping up from the ledge. I'd make the standing recovery easier to hit or something like that. It depends on how these other changes would be implemented. I'm just saying percentage, your opponent's percentage is a big factor in how your moves work and what combos, right? A given move can cause characters to slide at low percents, and then jumble at like another percent, fly into the air at another percent, tumble state at another percent, and kill at another percent. That's a lot for one move. Street Fighter, one move does one thing always, just one thing. It has one type of hitbox, it doesn't have sour spots, and it's a lot easier to understand, or at least easier to explain to people. So with all these different factors, right, these and these, for why Smash is very dynamic, I just thought like, well, it would be helpful if some of these things weren't so dynamic. And because Rage is like the latest system, I figured you can make it simpler and it'd be fine. The percentage under 2 dynamic is just saying that your target's percentage is a highly important variable to understand when forming your combos and strategies. So it, among all these other factors, makes getting consistent results out of the stuff that you want to do complicated. It's not that I would change these things, it's saying this is the 6 major things that make it hard to get consistency when practicing for this game. So some of them could stand to be a little simpler. So have you guys seen the new website I'm building for Smash Brothers? I think I've shown Lesson Pie. But have you seen it, Jonathan? Yeah, it's kind of neat to have some moves that are pretty consistent at whatever percentage, and then other moves that are more dynamic. That's another way of doing it. Smash Brothers, every move is dynamic for the most part. Even like a jab. Like, so the jabs in Smash 4 right now are try to be consistent. Like Mario's jabs pretty much do the same thing at all percentages. That's because there's properties to the move called like knockback growth, and if your knockback growth is very small, it'll have consistent results across a lot of damage ranges. And you can do that to moves in Smash Brothers. For the most part, the moves are very dynamic and they change around. The Bari Ball, the game we made, has a dynamic knockback system. The more jumps you have, the more defense you have, and the less you get kicked back, the less stun and knockback you take. The fewer jumps you have, the more you fly away. So it's definitely a pretty easy risk-reward system to understand. The more you jump around, not only do you not get your jumps back in the air, but you can get kicked off more easily. So go ahead and try to run away as much as possible. That's fine, but you'll be kicked. Any tweaks you would make to items, like in Smash Ball or Gus Bellas? I don't really care. I think the items are nearly perfect the way they are. The fact is that if you don't like some of them, you should only play with a certain combination. I don't even think it's fun to play with all items on. I think it's fun to set a few per match so that you can anticipate them a little bit more. So, and if an item's broken, just don't put it in your roster. That's all there is to it. Like, it's fun to have some crazy things land in a stage like Gus Bellas. And it's just all about like what you want, what kind of mode you want to set up for yourself. A lot of people have made Smash Bros games, but I feel like they don't understand. They don't have a great appreciation or don't understand any playstyle other than the melee dominated playstyle of short hop, L canceling, fast movement, and pressure. And they don't like the slow styles. They don't like the nuanced styles, the zoning styles, or anything else. And just all about rushing people down for the most part. That's why I like Bari Ball. I mean, obviously I made it, but like it's in the style of stuff I like. It feels slow, and the jumps are more like a Nintendo platformer, and you jump wide and you can float through the air and there's hang time. But then when you get close to someone, it's just like super intense. Every move, every split second, you gotta make a decision. Every pixel that you move is important in terms of your spacing, but then you're fighting over a ball too, so every little movement it makes is important. And even though there's only even though the game seems slow, like 3 dynamically moving elements in the match instead of 2 it's a world of difference. It makes a world of difference, and you'd be surprised. And like a lot of people just don't understand that they don't understand much about depth, and they certainly don't understand a lot about how the complexity of a fighting system is something that is more and more evident as certain kinds of mindsets and encounters are given to players. And obviously it's a balancing act, and you don't want to give them too much in one playstyle, otherwise it'll dominate, and so on and so forth. But a lot of people just don't understand how any one rule can have this rippling effect on your whole system. They don't understand the relative weightings of rules that affect movement, attacking, defense, and all that, and it's delicate. I guess you could say like Bari Ball was not a very good game for a long time, and it had great ideas and a great direction, but it just took a year and a half of extra tweaking and thinking about every feature super deeply, and then testing it and going, yeah, this is it. Then all of a sudden, like, the game became super fun. Oh yeah, I wouldn't change items. You can just pick the ones you think are cool. It's all good. Thanks, Pie. You spelled pie wrong. I mean, I would add different modes that allow items to spawn in differently. Like that Tetris idea I told you about, I would make a level specifically designed for that. Maybe even build certain ways that items spawn into the level, per level, instead of like a general thing where they just appear. Yeah. I mean, did you guys know I made Smashboard? Have you ever heard of Smashboard? It's a board game that I made for Smash Brothers Brawl that not only balanced the gameplay, even though Meta Knight was in the game, it balanced the gameplay, but it also added items and unique stages. And if you never heard of it, I'll show you. If this thing ever loads. It's called Smashboard. Right here, Smashboard.
My name is the Crazy Kirby Kid, and I'm here to talk to you about Cruise. The thing about Cruise is you get 4 people on the left, 4 people on the right, and they're supposed to see who is the best amongst them. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's say 1 battles 5 in a 1v1. Oh no, 1 loses. And then 5 battles 2 with whatever stock he has left. 5 loses. And then 2 battles 6, 2 wins. 2 battles 7, 2 wins again. 2 battles 8. And their whole crew wins. By the way, 2 is Mita King. But the funny part about this setup is 3 and 4 never got to participate. What's the point of having a crew battle if half your crew never even plays the game? The problem is crew battles have always been 1v1 matches, where each one person fights the other person. But this setup doesn't take into account all the different kinds of skills you can develop in Smash Brothers, like 1v1, 2v2, 2v1 when your teammate is dead, skill with items, skills with stages, and characters. Multiple characters, of course. So let's take my skills, for example. I'm decent at 1v1, pretty good at teams. I got a special technique for 2v1 battles. I got a particular flair for items. I'm good on only a few stages, and I only play a couple of characters. So, my skill base looks kind of like this. So what we need is a crew battle system that takes advantage and reflects and brings to the front all the different kinds of skills a person can have. That system is Smashboard, an idea that's been 2 years in the making. And Smashboard is kind of like Advance Wars, or like Fire Emblem, where you have a certain amount of spaces or squares to move around. But if you think about it that way, Smashboards is also kind of like chess. But instead of playing with these pieces, you play with these pieces. Let's take a look at how some basic battles work out using Smashboard. Look here, we have a Marth versus Luigi in a 1v1 match. And here we have a Meta Knight versus Yoshi in another 1v1 match. See how a 1v1 match they have to be 1 square away from each other with nobody else around? But now, Marth and Meta Knight are in a team match against Yoshi and Luigi, green versus blue, because they're in a 4 square configuration. This configuration and this one too are also team matches. Notice how they're always in a 4 square. Take away Yoshi, and right here we have a 2v1 match. Meta Knight and Marth versus Luigi. This is also a 2v1 match. And this is a 3v1 match, where one of the blue characters has to sit out while the other 3 fight Luigi. So don't ever get surrounded like this. It's not a good idea. But it rarely happens, so don't worry. So when you're playing Smash Board, it's your crew, represented by these little squares, versus somebody else's crew, represented by their squares. You start off on opposite ends of the board. And then they take turns moving, and then it's your turn and you move, and then they move, and then you move, and then they move, and somehow you get into these different matchups, and it all falls out from there. Every time you match up with somebody, you have a limited amount of stock, like 5, and a limited amount of time to take off as many stock as you can. And when the time runs out, you tally it all up and subtract from your total. But another reason why Smash Board is so cool is because the tier list, seen here, reflects how many squares you can move in one turn. So Meta Knight being the best can move 1, DDD 2, Kirby 3, Pit 4, so on and so forth. Good old Captain Falcon moving 7 squares per turn. That's the whole board. It's because he's so low tier. But if you ever want to change your character in order to move more spaces, you can only do so on your turn and before you move. Like Meta Knight just changed into Sonic. 6 squares later, he's at the end of the board. Piece of cake. Alright, let's look at something else real quick. In Smash Board, beyond having the different configurations determine your matches and having each character have different movement ranges, there are additional bonuses to kind of change up all the different kinds of matches you can have between 2 crews. One of those elements are level elements. And by level elements, I mean little squares that show you what stage you can play on. Look, it's Battlefield, Pokemon Stadium 1, and Yoshi's Island. Now when these squares are placed on the board, and a match is called with one of the characters standing on these pieces, they must play on that stage. For example, Luigi and Link have to play on Pokemon Stadium 1 now because Link is standing on top of the Pokemon Stadium 1 square, just like that. Beyond level elements, we have other items that your crew can pick up and use on their turn, like items. Check it out. This square represents an item. This square represents a counterpick stage that you can use on your turn. Each square represents something different, and you can mix and match them to your liking. And that's what Smash Board is all about. Now, Smash Board is a crew battle that reflects all the different kinds of skills that each player can bring to the table, including 1v1, 2v2 matches, 2v1 matches, items, stages, and characters. We're good. Another way to change things up between different battles, different whole rounds between crews, is by changing the board shape. For example, this one's a small map with Fox only, no items, Final Destination. And this one is a long, narrow map called Narrows. And this map is a crazy shape, ignore that. The point is, this system is very flexible and you can play however you want and adjust it to your liking, depending on what regional philosophies your crew currently follows. Thanks for watching, everybody, on my video presentation of Smash Board. I hope you get a chance to play it on your own. And remember, Crazy Kirby Kid created this, and if it's weird, it probably came from Texas.
Yeah, it's Smash Board. Something I made a long time ago. It'd be cool to have that in game, but I just think that's a much more interesting way to do crew battles. and it's amazing how much strategy comes out of it, because you have to determine like which character your team's going to play, because there's only one character per side, and then who's going to play what character, who's going to match up with whom, and how you're going to move on the board to get that to happen. And it's just a lot of fun. But there's ways of balancing just about anything, right? Just creating more rules or context for decisions, more weighted risk rewards gets it done. I had an idea about how to balance Brawl that nobody wanted to try. Instead of stupid one stock, I thought we should set permanent handicaps for the upper tier characters, like Meta Knight. So he would start every match with 30% on his character every time. And for a 3-stock match, if you win, that's like a free 90% damage buff that you don't have to give to Meta Knight. And that essentially changes his weight, right? It changes it to where he is a light character that will fly away farther from every move you hit, starting at 30%. And playing around with that idea, right? And nobody wanted to try that because, you know, the whole community was scared and whatever, like, who cares? But there's lots of interesting options that are available to players, and instead of complaining, you know, if we had better communication and a little bit more flexibility, we could try lots of things. But you know, Smash is complicated, like we said before. The community is really complicated and scattered and hard to communicate with in general. So yeah, I've played Smashboard a few times. So much fun. I still have it. It's over there. I've always wanted to get like a really hype battle of Smash 4, cruise between 8 really good people in Brawl, but you know, whatever. Sometimes you just don't get everything you want. If it's weird, it probably came from Texas. It's true. Alright guys, I think I'm gonna pretty much wrap it up for the week. I didn't get to do my witness video, but I think I want to try a really casual format to try to get out some of my thoughts. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what to do in general for games criticism and all these projects, but I work hard every day, and I kind of want to some of these ideas to actually work, right? So like, it's kind of hard. It's not hard to motivate myself to keep going. It's just hard to figure out what I need to do every day. But I'm busy every day, and you know, good thing Smash Brothers is there because it's part of my research, right? I get to play it all day. We're about to launch this website. I think I've showed you before, but here's a sneak peek if I haven't already. It's a website where you can search all the Smash tech for specific examples, search frame data, and search all that stuff instantly just by typing in a name. And then when you type in a name, you can look at the text spread, and it gives you a visual readout for all the examples we have in our database. On the left side is damage, how much damage your combo would do, and on the bottom side is percentage your target needs to be at. Like this 105 is its one thing right here. Let's see what this one is. There's combos you can do on Peach, right? And then it shows you video immediately when you click on an example, like this edge guarding against Roy. Yeah, it's the dojo base for now. Let's say you want to learn about Mario kill setups, because killing in Smash Brothers is really important. You type in kill, you hit enter. It gives you an updated spread on kill setups, and these are the kill percentages. See how they have these cool bars? Alright, later, Lesson Pie. Thanks for joining us. And then you can click on any of these to get kill percentages and videos of kill setups, right? There's one on Luigi. Yeah, stuff like that. It's stuff like this, like a kill setup on Sheik that starts at 37 damage. What could this be? You're like, who knows? That's the kill setup. And you're like, wow, I wish I'd known that. Well, now you have a website to help you learn it and see it and share it and practice it or whatever. All these setups. is my new favorite ones. The Peach forward smash though. And we hope to launch this next week. So like we're hoping to get it polished enough this weekend. So like I said, I'm always busy, just gotta figure out which one of these ideas people actually like and use. Alright, Jonathan, that's it for me. I gotta go. I'm tired and I'm thirsty. I'll talk to you later. Peace, everyone. I hope you had a good Smash Brothers week.